Hello, I'm Nitai Duranja. I'm here to guide us through the book Education for Life by Donald Walters and to share stories that go along with the principles. So this chapter today is chapter 15. It's called the stages of maturity, We've just finished exploring the tools of maturity of the body, feeling, will, and intellect, and the need to balance those in education. But today we make it a little more precise. We can align them with certain age ranges with children. So the reading goes like this. In the child's physiological and spiritual development, there are 4 clearly marked stages, at each of which it becomes natural for him to assume responsibility for developing the next basic tool of maturity that I've described above. The first 6 years of a child's life are taken up primarily with the development of physical awareness. The following 6, until the age of 12, mark the natural period for developing emotional sensitivity. From 12 to 18, teenage rebelliousness is a natural symptom of a developing willpower. And the last 6 years of these cycles, from 18 to 24, are the time of life when the intellect begins naturally to flower. So, these make all kinds of sense if you simply look at children. You look at little children, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they're just running around, they're jumping, every new month or two they figure out a new thing they can do with their body, and they're exploring it, how it works, and it's quite an exciting time for them. And so most education and most opportunities for growth happen on the physical plane. So it's just very obvious. Not quite so obvious is that the next 6 years, from 6 to 12, has to do with feelings. I had a very interesting incident once. So I went in to substitute for a group of 8 and 9-year-olds. And I decided that, okay, well, I think I'll just use this as an opportunity to explore this whole idea of feelings. So I got them all together and sat down and I said, okay, today we're going to open up a new topic and we're going to talk about feelings. Does anybody have anything to say about feelings? And so in the group, it was about half boys and half girls. Well, as soon as I said, does anybody have anything to share about feelings, half the class raised their hands enthusiastically. Some people raised both hands, and they had all this stuff when they wanted to talk about feelings. The other half of the class looked like I had just spoken to them in Swahili, and they had no idea, and it was split exactly by gender. The boys, they were not aware of their feelings and didn't know what that feeling was, and the girls were naturally, they were dealing with it all the time. So even though it's common, it's good to work on both, you'll see there's a big difference in the sensitivity that way. It's absolutely crucial in our culture to help boys get in touch with their feelings. You know, there are so many men that you see around who have never had any training in that. Nobody ever asked them to it, and they're blind to their feelings. And as a result, they're very unhappy people, and the people around them are very unhappy too often. If you can cultivate this awareness in boys, it's a huge gift to the planet. And the more that we can do this, the better the planet will be. You get to the 12 to 18, you get to the will years. And you mentioned teenage rebelliousness. Rebelliousness is not a necessity. The need to be empowered is, though, in that age. And if they're not given a positive chance, then it will turn into rebelliousness or negative adventures. When did you smoke your first cigarette? Wanted to try out alcohol because it's a sign of growing up. Not a positive sign, but it's a sign. So we'll go into this a lot more in the next couple of chapters, but providing positive channels for teenagers to be challenged and expand their awareness. And then he shows that the intellectual years are 18 to 24. It's, there's so much pressure on our schools now to bring that intellect down. We have this whole thing of advanced placement tests, which I'm not a fan of. They simply take the kind of material that you usually give to people in the 18 to 24 year and try to give it to 15-year-olds. I know my own experience of that. I have a lifelong resistance to Shakespeare because it was imposed on me when I was 14 years old, and I was not interested, and I didn't want to. Why are we reading all this stupid language? Why don't we just have somebody share it? Now, at this point, I could, if I wanted to work on it, I'm sure I could develop a real taste for Shakespeare because the ideas are wonderful, the emphasis. But the thing was, it was pushed on me too early, and so I have a block about it. It's not, there should be some intellectual stimulation at all 4 levels, and especially, in high school as you get closer, more, but it's way overdone. But the problem is the people want to improve education, and they kind of think, okay, we got to improve education, we got to get better test scores, and it's so narrow. But if you start to open it up and see, we could be doing things for the will, we could be doing things for the feeling, we could do things for the body. Now, more recently, the feeling thing has come in more into focus when people talk about emotional intelligence and things like that. People are starting to see that there's a real need for it, which is much different than when we started at this 50 years ago. So there is progress, not so much with will. Sports certainly is an avenue that's put out there, but there's so much more in life that could be, where the will could be brought into play and explored. Well, like I say, we'll do that in each of these areas in the coming chapters. But the point here is just to say, there is a whole other dimension to child raising and education that can be explored when we start to see that the body, the feeling, and the will are just as important as the intellect. So I hope you can take some of this into practice with your children. Thanks.